What's up YouTube? This is GalacticGod, and I know it's been a little while since I did one of these, but I thought I would go ahead and bring you another one of my Yu-Gi-Oh! Top 5s. And today I would like to talk to you guys about the top 5 worst decks to duel against. Now these of course are my personal hated ones. They could of course be ones that you definitely enjoy dueling against, but for me personally, I truly despise dueling against these decks. Now these come from all different sorts of formats and metas from throughout the eras of Yu-Gi-Oh! So you might see ones that aren't very relevant anymore, but back in the day, they were truly horrible to duel against. At least, for me. Anyhow, gonna go ahead and get things started and open the gates to the underworld with the number 5 deck. That of course can be none other than Dark World. Now years ago when Dark World was in its heyday, it was possibly one of the most despised decks that you could come across in a tournament. The salt levels that it could create in your opponent were truly unreal. Not only did you have to contend with cards like Drag Down to the Grave, giving your opponent a chance to sneak a peek into your hand, see what you're playing, disrupt your best strategy, but it also gave them the chance to create great follow-up plays with cards like Mind Crush. This combo enraged so many duelists, myself included, that it's the reason why this deck made the number 5 spot. Coming in at the number 4 spot is a deck that the king of games himself loves to play. Of course, I'm talking about Exodia. Now for years this was not too horrible to contend with, but once Hope for Escape was released to us here in the TCG, all that seemed to change. When your opponent would play the card Gift Card, giving you 3,000 life points, you knew they were going to follow up with Hope for Escape, with an effect that allows them to draw a card for every 2,000 point difference between your life points and theirs. It gave Exodia players something they had been yearning for ever since that was created. Personally, I hate dueling against solitary decks. Just watching your opponent play one card after another and then you trying to make some kind of move which has no real effect on their strategy is just not only disheartening, but just plain boring to duel against. Coming into the number 3 spot is an electrifying deck. I'm talking about Watts. This archetype centers around not only attacking twice, but attacking directly during the battle phase. Not only that, but they love shutting you out of your own battle phase. Whenever they summon 2 copies of Watt Hopper, it can prevent you from attacking or targeting their Watt monsters, thus creating a lock where they're directly hitting you no matter how many monsters you summon to try and defend yourself. Meanwhile, you're unable to attack them or target them with effects. I had a friend who was playing Watts back in the day, and every time he would come over I'd be like, please tell me you brought another deck besides that. I just don't want to have to deal with it. Coming in at the number 2 spot is probably one of the worst decks to ever be invented. I'm talking about Chain Burn. Seeing your opponent set 5 cards constantly, thus making you afraid to play just about any card that could start a chain, is one of the worst ways to have to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Not only that, they use cards like Lava Golem, Accumulated Fortune, and of course, Chain Strike to not only keep you at bay, but go in for that final kill. The deck was so fast in its heyday, it really didn't matter how good your meta deck was. Chain Strike just ignored it and continued to burn your life points away until you went to 0. Finally, coming in at the number 1 spot is probably my most hated deck of all time. I'm talking about Final Countdown. So for those of you guys who have been subscribed to my channel for quite a long time, you'll see this as no surprise. I have been harping about how horrible this deck is for years. Thankfully, a few formats back, Konami finally hit Final Countdown and limited that card to 1 copy per deck. But before that, whenever I would come across this deck up on DevPro or DN, I wouldn't even bother. Just having to go against it not only irritates me, but makes me hate the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! The basic theme of the deck is just stall, 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 stall! Utilizing cards like Threatening War, Abquiu, Swift Scarecrow, and Battle Fader, it just gave them an endless supply of effects that could halter your advance. So being on a time crunch and all that stall is just the worst way to have to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And that is why Final Countdown makes the number 1 spot on my list. Alright YouTube, and there you have it. Those were my picks for the top 5 worst decks to duel against. Now they of course may differ from the ones that you think are the worst to duel against, so I encourage you to let me know what your top 5 would be down in the comment section below. And I guess that's gonna about do it for now. This is GalacticGod.